Elaine Daignault, a native Westporter and a proud 1989 graduate of Staples High School.
Yeah.
I'm proud, Elaine, of your work as director of our town's Human Services Department. You serve youth, senior citizens, those in need, and everybody else, and you do it with great efficiency, wonderful attention to detail, and grace.
Oh, thank you so much. It's nice
Welcome,
to hear.
Elaine, to 06880, the podcast. So let's sort of start at the beginning. When you were growing up in Westport, did you always dream of working in human services, or did you have no idea what it was?
I had no idea that human services existed when I was a kid, I'll be honest. Growing up, I really think I wanted to be a teacher, and that's really the career track that I was pursuing when I was in college. And I was really a liberal arts major in college, but I wanted to be a teacher, and that's where I started out. I was working as a paraprofessional at Coleytown Middle School, and I was attending Southern Connecticut State University in the teachers program. And I almost got all the way through. I'm just a few classes short of my master's in teaching. I ended up getting pregnant with my first son and did some reassessments to figure out, whether I wanted to continue in that path. And I chose to make a change and ended up as the director of Tokay Hall, the teen center, because I knew I loved working with young people, but I also wanted to be home with my son during the day. And that was really the perfect scenario because I was working afternoons and evenings, so my husband was able to stay. I was able to stay home during the day, and my husband was able to take care of my son at night. So Tokay Hall started it all.
Wow.
So I started as the assistant director, and quickly, within just a few months, became the director of the teen center. And then I decided, thanks to a mentor of mine, Chris Lamone, who I'm sure you remember, who was unfortunately passed away suddenly, but he was the student outreach counselor at Staples High School. And the year he started was the year I was a paraprofessional at Staples High School working in the freshman center. And he encouraged me to pursue counseling, and that's what I did.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. So tell me about the Department of Human Services. What do you do?
It's a really good question. So a lot of people don't know what we do. We are a very busy social service agency. So in addition to being at Town Hall, where we have most of our clinical social workers who are working one-on-one with individuals and families, helping them to assess programs, whether they be a local program, trying to find counseling, wanting to get some additional help financially, access state and federal resources. That's kind of where our main hub is for the clinical component of what we do. And then, of course, you interviewed Sue Pfister. We have a wonderful senior center right here on Imperial Avenue. And that's where it's basically a college for seniors, right? We have social workers there who can work with individuals, but mostly we have programs that really work to enhance the social, recreational, and intellectual abilities of seniors. So that's a very vibrant place, and it's kind of like a college campus in and of itself. And then we also have a teen center, Tokay Hall, which is right across the way here, right above, and I guess it's a real estate agency now, but right through the alleyway there. And the teen center is open in the afternoons and evenings for kids to create their own social and recreational programs. So between those three places, we all kind of, we all work together to meet the needs of all ages and stages. So senior center, or not just the senior center, the human services department on a day-to-day basis is you never know. You don't know what calls are going to come in. We're often working on big picture kinds of things, advocating for our individuals that need additional support, making sure that people with disabilities are heard and have equal access to all of the wonderful amenities that Westport has. Advocating for affordable housing, making sure that emergency management is being taken care of, because that's one of the unique things that people don't know that we do. We work very closely with police and fire, EMS, to make sure that when there is something going on townwide, that we all work together to support people that need help.
I know you do a lot with people in need.
Yes.
Kids needing backpacks for school, clothes for graduation, families that need assistance with heating in the winter.
Yes.
So that's a whole other component, right?
Absolutely. So we take the eligibility requirements and the needs of individuals that come upon hard times really seriously. We want to be there both as a support, and we want to be compassionate and hear what's going on in their lives. And then doing a real financial assessment to see, well, there might be things that might be helpful to you that you would qualify for. So energy assistance is a state and federal program whereby individuals would qualify and get help, whether they can get help getting oil, gas, or electricity if that's how they heat. Now, once they meet that kind of guideline, we're able to help them with a lot of other things. For example, we have a wonderfully vibrant family program that offers scholarships for after-school programming, helps with back-to-school backpacks and supplies. We will help an individual access, even sometimes we can help someone with driver's ed if that's something that's going to help them to kind of move forward in their lives. So yes, it's a very important component, and it's very vibrant, and we couldn't do it if it weren't for the partnerships we have with other agencies in town. The YMCA is extremely generous and helps us to provide those scholarships. The Art Center, anywhere you look in town, and even the Soccer Association, PAL Football, all of those organizations work with us, and we do the income verification. So if somebody comes to the Soccer Association, for example, and says, my son really wants to play, but we need some help financially, they'll send them to us. We'll do the verification, and then we will recommend the scholarship on the family's behalf.
How much need is there?
Well, it changes year to year. I would say the last couple years have probably been the most significant because we weren't just talking about extracurricular and other kinds of supports. We were really talking about food and mental health. So this year, I think we helped the most households financially, whether it be through food distribution or one-time financial assistance. I think we helped around 600 households in Westport.
Wow.
Yeah. And in other years, we were averaging around 400 to 500 families and households.
Do all the other, several hundred thousand or several thousand households in Westport, do they realize the need? Do Westporters realize how much need there is?
I think that they do, because if it weren't for them, we wouldn't be able to provide the assistance that we do. We live in a community where those that have the resources share it, and they share it openly, and they're very, very generous. So all of the financial assistance that we provide outside of the state and federal programs come from community donations and grants. So I believe that people know we're here. If you don't have a direct need, you probably wouldn't, you might not know what to ask for when you call our office. But all one has to do is just call and say, hey, I'm going through something. Do you have any idea for resources of what I could do? And we'll meet one-on-one with them. We'll get them started on the right path. And often we get calls for things that have nothing to do with having a financial need. They just need a little support or some direction of where to find something. And oftentimes we have people coming in who just want to volunteer and help out. Wow. And that's probably the best part of our job, is that we don't feel like we're doing it alone. We feel like we're doing it as a community.
It's great to hear. I just want to ask one more question about the families in need. Mm-hmm. Who are they? Are they families that have, never sort of saved for a rainy day and fallen on hard times? Are they old-time Westporters who are getting priced out? Who are they, generally?
All of the above. Many of our families have been here for generations and have done just fine. That idea of being priced out is really very real, especially for people who are renting. If you're not in a real affordable unit, your landlord can increase your rent every year, and people find that they're not able to make ends meet. They're also individuals that, from the outside, you would never know that they're having a financial crisis, and they're living their beautiful homes and they're driving their nice cars, and they fall on hard times. A spouse loses a job, someone gets ill, or some other unforeseen circumstance, and they're coming to our doors, and they are just like anybody else that we serve. And I think one of the strengths of my colleagues and the individuals I work with is that they treat everybody the same. And it doesn't matter what kind of car you drive, you're still going to get that same level of professional service and compassion and empathy. We also talk a lot about seniors. I think Sue had mentioned that we have over 30% of our population are seniors, and many of them have lived through the Great Depression, right? They've lived through so many different things in the economy. And now it feels different because even if you are on a fixed income and you've figured out how to manage your monthly expenses, and now gas is through the roof, food is through the roof, and suddenly you just don't have the resources that you thought you did to kind of get through from month to month. So those are individuals that we're seeing a lot as well.
What about kids? What do they need?
Kids. So often the individuals that come to us are their parents looking for support. We also have a juvenile review board run by Kevin Godburn, our youth services director. And those are kids that are dealing with truancy, maybe refusal to go to school, maybe they got in a little trouble, and rather than sending them to juvenile court, they're now coming to town hall, to human services, to get support. It's a restorative model, so it's not looking to necessarily discipline kids, but to figure out, why did you make that decision? What can we do differently next time, and what can we do to support you so that you're not tempted to make the wrong decision going forward? I'm a big youth services person. That's kind of my background. And, I think kids just need to be heard, and they need to feel valued, and we need to build on their strengths. And that's why I think that what we're doing at Tokay Hall is so important, helping them to feel like they're driving the ship, that they're the leaders, they're the specialists in their lives, and so we're here to support them.
So tell me about kids in Westport today. What's it like to be a kid in Westport, and is it different from when you were growing up here in the 1970s and 80s?
Yes. I think it's different. I think it's different for a lot of different reasons. When I think about my own childhood, I was the youngest of 10 children, so I didn't exactly have what many kids' experiences are, because mom and dad didn't have time to focus on me and only me. They weren't free-range parents, but I had a lot of free range. Westport was a place where, you walked downtown, you jumped on the minibus, you went to the movies, and you weren't in constant contact with mom and dad, right? There was a level of kind of trust and freedom that we had that is unparalleled to today. At that time, too, I don't think there was as much pressure to excel. I think that we all, kind of embraced our family values and wanted to do the best we could. But I don't think anybody felt the need to perform in the way that these kids do. A lot of it is kind of self-motivated. Trying to, be the best at everything is nearly impossible, right? Athletics was really important as a child for me and for my siblings, and we had such a good time. But that's what it was. It was a good time. It was a time for play, and it wasn't an incredibly competitive, overwhelming feeling. So I think that's a little bit different. I also think kids today are stricken with anxiety. I think about all the things that they've witnessed over even the last few years, that they're worried. Kids are worried about, am I going to measure up? Am I going to be okay? Are the people around me going to be okay? So I think it's really tough to be a kid today.
Wow.
Yeah, I think mental health, and we hear this all the time. I mean, we are dealing with a mental health crisis among kids, many of whom are getting support from various places. I think the front line is mom and dad and your family, right? You go to school, we have these social emotional pillars that we're looking at in our school system. which I think are so important, because if you don't feel safe, you can't learn. So, I worry about our kids. I'm fortunate I have 2 kids that made it through Staples High School. They both had very different experiences, and they're both doing okay. But, my 2 kids are not like every other 2 kids. So, I just think everybody has their own temperament and their own pressures and their own experiences, and we need to give them a forum and a safe place to talk about what's going on.
And you do a lot of human services, does a lot of work with the schools, right?
Absolutely. In fact, something called Positive Youth Development was created by my mentor and predecessor, Barbara Butler. And it was actually a group of 4 women, and it's a really interesting story, and it's where I learned so much about what it means to work and live in a community and be collaborative. So Barbara Butler, Lynn Shane, who was the former assistant superintendent, Bernice Corday, who was the director of the United Way of Westport and Weston, and Marty Hahuth, who was a former select woman and also the executive director of Positive Directions, which is a local counseling agency. Those 4 women came together back in the late 80s and said, what can we do together as a community to support children and families? And they came to realize, I think at the time, it was sort of one of those situations where, the schools were getting the blame, I think, for a lot of things that were going on. And the parents were saying, well, you should teach the kids to do this. And the schools were saying, well, it starts at home. And so how are we going to bring all those pieces together and really look at those concentric circles, right? Kids have different experiences in different places. You have your unit at home, then you go to school, and then you have the greater community. And we all need to be speaking the same language. And again, building on strengths. So we run the school-based mentor program. So our Annette Doggelli, who is our family services person, and she does casework as well, she actually matches young people with adults in the community. Those adults meet with kids at school during the school day. They collaborate with the school counselors and school psychologists to make those matches and oversee when they're meeting at school. But that's been a really vibrant program for many, many years. We also have the Teen Awareness Group, which is really a substance abuse and mental health prevention and education. We're actually a nonprofit group of young people who apply and want to share their knowledge and encourage kids to talk about what's going on in their lives. So TAG meets every week. They're a very passionate group of kids. And it's about leadership development, right? It's not just about, sharing what you know, but it's about facilitating conversation and supporting one another. So we've got Cool to Be Kind, which is a group of kids that go from at the high school, who go down to the elementary schools and talk about empathy and kindness and not leaving people out. And then, of course, we have all sorts of other leadership things going on at the Teen Center. We have the Westport Youth Commission and the Teen Governing Board. And again, those are kids, for kids, by kids, encouraging them to engage in civic conversations and helping us adults figure out what's important to them.
Awesome.
Yeah.
So what's the best part of your job?
What's the best part of my job? That's a good question. Well, it's always exciting. It's something new every day. You never kind of know what's around the corner. I think for me, being a part of this community and having grown up here, to be in this position and to be able to work with my colleagues in all the departments, I found quite a community and a family among my peers. I love working with my colleagues in human services because they get it. They're passionate, they're dedicated, and they perform every day. And I'm always amazed, especially just in the last couple of years, when a lot of people were staying at home and, with their families and working from home. We weren't. We were going to work every day. We were distributing food. We were going to people's homes, and we were checking in on people. And for me, that's what it's all about, just being that help, being that support, and feeling successful at it because of the people that we surround ourselves with who are doing the good work.
How many people in your department?
There are 15 individuals in my department. We have 14 full-time, 1 part-time. We have 4 clinical staff, so social workers, licensed social workers, and then lots of people who specialize in programming and really figuring out, depending on the age and stage developmentally, they really focus on, providing the programs themselves that keep us ticking and keep us active and engaged.
So the most challenging or frustrating part of what you do?
For me, I sometimes wish that we could get the word out to more people that we're here and that we're here to help. And I think that for the most part, people know and understand that town workers sometimes get a bum rap, right? People just, they work for the town, that somehow we're not doing the best we can every day. And, a day in the life in my shoes is I've never seen a group of people who work harder and are more passionate about what they do and how they do it. So that can be frustrating sometimes. You got to go to lots of boards and commissions. We live and work very publicly. Everything we do is recorded and live, and I do like that, but sometimes you just want to get the job done.
Sure.
Yeah.
So obviously respecting confidentiality and all that, but are there any stories or examples or incidents that stand out and make you think, wow, I'm really glad I do what I do?
Oh, every day. Just simple conversations. Someone who calls and they're in distress or they're looking for an ear and they just want to say, hey, this is what I'm experiencing. Letting them know they're not alone, letting them know that if they're experiencing it's very likely that somebody else is as well. And so making those connections for people is very powerful. Connection is so important. I'm trying to think of a story. You can't make up some of the stories. Especially like during storms when we get calls from individuals that really, we like to think we know where the people are that need assistance, but it never ceases to amaze me that every time there's a storm, we get a call from somebody and we go out to make a home visit and we're like, why didn't you give us a call? If we had known you were here, we would have been able to reach out in advance of the storm, make sure you had what you needed. And that happens quite a bit. We probably see new clients, at least 1 or 2 a week,
wow,
which is surprising. And it might just be a quick call, or it might be much more involved than that. And so, I can't think of like a really interesting story without, reaching confidentiality.
Sure.
And that's important, obviously, as well, because we would not want anyone to think that when they come to us that anybody's, hearing about their situation. Sure. Yeah.
What's COVID done to the town?
Wow, what has COVID done to the town? Well, you know what? In some ways, it was really quite lovely. I think things calmed down. It felt more like the old Westport I remember as far as, less traffic. People were maybe a little bit kinder, a little bit more open and friendly and concerned about one another. I think pressing the pause button was sort of a nice change of pace because we are in such a fast-paced world. In the social services realm, I think people stepped up like you would not believe. The amount of volunteers that continued to come and do our home-delivered meal program, who offered to help put together packages for families to, whether it be toilet paper or, food or any kind of goods like that. People were coming out of the woodwork to provide support. And I think in social services, we just came to recognize that what might be really easy for one person, like running to the grocery store and grabbing some milk and something else, is not that easy for everyone. And I think everyone was able to take a pause and acknowledge and recognize how fortunate we are. So I think that's a good thing.
Wow. Is there anything you want to do with your department that you haven't been able to or can't do? Or
That's a good question too. Dan. I think that we're not a teeny department, but we're a small department, I think, in comparison to some other, like Public Works, Parks and Rec, that kind of thing. I've been really fortunate having worked with, several different select persons, right? I've been through a few now. And no, I really feel like if there was something new that we wanted to do and I went to the appropriate bodies and asked for that, I felt very supported. Would I like more staff and be able to do more as far as, doing outreach? Absolutely. I wish we could knock on every door in Westport and say, hey, did you know we're here and how can we help? But I've never really felt limited. I felt so fortunate. Even in just the few years that I've been in this position, we've been able to accomplish a lot and really connect a lot of dots. So I'm proud of that.
So it sounds like between the people in town, the government, all the different organizations and institutions and nonprofits, sounds like you've got a lot of support.
Absolutely. And an incredible team, as I said before. The people I work with every day, they are the silent heroes, right? Nobody knows what we do from day to day. And I feel incredibly supported, incredibly fortunate, and almost like the sky's the limit, right? As long as you have a group of people that care about this work, then we're in really good shape.
Last question. What's flying under the radar? What's an issue that people are not yet talking about but will be soon?
Well, I think we're talking about things like affordable housing. I know that's been, something that we all know and acknowledge and recognize we need in town. We need more diversity. I know we have a diverse community, but I would like more diverse housing. I'd like more diversity as far as the individuals who live here. As far as under the radar, I think that we all just need to talk more and have more compassion for each other and just come to recognize that, we are a small town. We're doing a good job, but we could always do better.
You do a great job.
Oh, thank you.
So thank you, Elaine Daignault, the director of Westport's Human Services Department. Thanks for all you do for seniors, for youth, for the underserved, and hopefully after this podcast, everyone will know what you do.
Absolutely. Thank you. Thank you for the opportunity. It was fun.
Our pleasure.